Welcome to season 2 of Life is Better with You in It, and I'll be your host, Jen Kramer. And this season is all about the word with and about transitions. And so we have an amazing guest on the podcast today. Pete, say hi.
How you guys doing?
So Pete is the owner of Baroody Camps, and I've been working with Pete doing some HR consulting. And so I figured the listeners need to hear from Pete Baroody about what it means to be a teacher and a coach, because I think you're a subject matter expert, don't you?
I'm getting there, yeah, and I think they need to hear about how you work with other people. So this will be interesting.
All right, fair. So, listeners, when we think about being with other people and, working through transitions, there's always some type of transitions that are going on in life. So, sometimes we're moving different jobs, sometimes we're moving into different industries, but really at the end of the day, it's about learning how to be with yourself and how to be with other people. And so Pete's on the podcast today because I want him to talk to you about his expertise as a teacher and as a coach. So, Pete, tell us a little bit about your journey, and maybe what made you be a teacher and then what made you be a coach as well.
Oh, so completely random. I went to school for political science and then came out of school, graduated from James Madison, go Dukes. And this one birthday party my brother had for his son, my nephew, and there's a bunch of kids out there, and I started, hanging out. I had nothing else to do, so I started talking to them, and I realized that I really could easily connect with them. I was having conversations with them, and it was like I was speaking their language. So it was eye opening to me, and it gave me a sense of, direction outside of politics. And next thing I knew, I was substitute teaching, and then asked for a job, and um, the rest is history. And so once I got, confident teaching for, after 17 years, it was a great journey. And alongside it, I think what made me, really appreciate, parenting and all these other aspects, teaching. And it's just, the time you spend being patient with kids and working with other adults to collaborate. It's been a heck of a ride.
Wow. So you went to a birthday party and then decided that you could be a teacher.
Yeah, I spoke their language. I mean, I felt like Dr. Doolittle with little kids. Like everyone else is like, "Oh, hi, how are you all doing?" And I'm like, "Hey, get over here, kid." And they're listening, they're loving it, and it gave me insight as to maybe one of my secret powers, which is good.
I love that. So tell me about when you became a coach. Like, did you become a coach while you were a teacher? I know that you have a natural inclination to sports. So did you just did it kind of coincide because there was like an opportunity to present itself, or what made you want to coach kids?
Well, coaching kids was part of the deal when I got the choice to teach. I think my principal asked me, "Do you want to be a social studies teacher or do you want to be a PE teacher?" And I said, "Which one's easier?" And she said PE, and I said, "Okay, let's go to PE." And so that got me into coaching kids. But then I really was looking into how do I coach and affect change at the high school level. So I went back to my alma mater and coached basketball and football there, and learned a lot from the coaches that had coached me, 5, 6 years before, about how to treat kids and how to collaborate as a coach. So it was kind of sent me down that path.
Okay. So now you've owned this company, Broody Camps, for what, close to 20 years? Hit your 20-year
Yeah,
mark, I
yeah.
think, this year?
Officially, yes. Yeah, we got
Officially, yes.
yeah.
So officially, you've been in operation with Broody Camps, providing after-school programs, working through summer camps. So you're affecting change through kids, right? And part of your mission is being able to, get as many kids into after-school programs as possible to make learning fun, make it safe, and make it so where they don't even know that they're learning, regardless of their ability and their ability to pay. So walk me through what it means to maybe be a good teacher or a good coach, right? Like, so if we're thinking about people who are exploring different career fields or they're exploring maybe a career change, what does it take to be a good coach? What does it take to be a good teacher?
Man, it takes a lot of confidence and a lot of time with kids. Uh, it takes a lot, and I see some really good coaches out there and teachers out there, and they are the ones that are the most patient. They're the
Mm,
ones that are the most empathetic. There is very little panic, in their communication with these kids. They know it's, we're in there for the long haul. And I think that's kind of what I've learned. I was not always like that. It took me, a couple other individuals and watching them model it alongside of me as I'm teaching, and then I'd see them in the hallways and just was just stunned by the patience and the empathy. And once I started implementing that into my teaching, I felt so much better. Like the stress was lower, and I just saw, hey, this kid they need my attention, they need my help. And it's less about, why aren't they learning? It's more about, am I doing my very best to teach them? And once I start to humble myself a little bit, it became so much better. And I felt like it was a much better process, and it was a lot more fun, more fulfilling.
So it sounds like in order to be a teacher, you've got to have a little bit of patience and be able to grow that aspect. And you've got to be coachable, because it sounds like you've got some self-awareness where you're like, it's not about the kids learning from me. It's about how can I help impart wisdom on them and help them teach the best. And like, what do I need to do, or what do I need to change to make that happen? And it sounds like you need to be able to have some empathy. So if you're naturally having empathy towards other people, towards being with other people in the community or around you, that might make a good teacher. Sounds like an
Absolutely.
ideal one.
I think it is. And I think you got to be humble as well. But I think one of my favorite quotes was, if you taught something and they didn't learn it, you didn't really teach it. And so, really looking at, and I've been coaching, and I said, I have these girls running through plays, and I said, what's going on here? Why aren't you able to run this? And I said, I'm not upset with you. It sounds like I'm not teaching it right or coaching it right. And I could see it in their face that they were being heard. And I said, what can we do to start learning these plays, or to be more effective here? And they were starting to share, and they were starting to figure it out. And it turns out the less that I was talking, the better they got, because they figured out what my goal was, for them to be able to handle any sort of stress on the court. And they were able to do it without me calling out plays. They were identifying defenses, and it was beautiful. Like, it was great teamwork.
So, listeners, you're hearing a little bit about being self-aware when you're working with kids. So really, in any organization or any time in your life, if you're encountering kids, it's helping them feel heard and helping build some self-awareness in, like, hey, I may not be teaching it the right way. How can I help? Right? How can I help is such a powerful phrase. And so tell me a little bit about this coaching aspect of yelling out plays, and you're watching things, right? Like, we're coming off the Super Bowl, and that meme is really popular with that one guy who's like yelling at the one coach. And so there's like a lot of yelling happening. And you and I have talked about this whole yelling concept where I go to a lacrosse tournament, I have no idea what I'm yelling for, and I'm excited, and all at the same time, right? All these noises are going on. So what's a coach's job? If they're not supposed to be talking a lot, what's a coach's job?
It's to set them up for success and create a great learning environment so they can get better. But I like the fact that you're saying this guy pushed the coach. This guy, Travis Kelce, you mean?
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
I couldn't remember his name off the top of my head.
Tay-Tay's, BFF or whatever. It's good. Like, so what I've heard is, and what I've told people is, if I want to stress somebody out, I'm going to yell at them, regardless of the intent. It's, another variable for me to process while I'm watching the ball, watching defenders, predicting outcomes. And now I've got to listen to what someone's saying to me from the sideline. I'm not against, yelling out directions if people are, open to it and ready for it, and they're, developmentally appropriate, directions. But if you're yelling out, and if you're yelling out positives, like, hey, great shot, that's awesome. Like, that's more about like you letting things out. But anytime I see a parent, and I'm literally 1 minute ahead of the curve on this one, just barely 1 minute, because I'm still there. I'm still thinking in my head, gosh, how can I help my daughter on the court? I can't. I want to. That's all anxiety. It's more about me and my anxiousness and my wanting to affect change on the court. But I can't. I just gotta let it go. And it's hard. It's really hard. But I see it all the time, and I don't think it helps. Like, if I want if I want to stress somebody out on say I'm playing defense on somebody, I want to stress them out. I want to make a lot of noise. And when the parents are yelling from the sideline, that's a lot of noise. Just
It's a lot of
another variable.
Can we
So,
so for all the parents who yell, I'm a
mhm,
yeller. Pete, I'm a yeller. Whatever it is,
yeah,
I'm yelling. If I'm laughing, if I'm excited, I'm yelling. And so if parents are yelling, do you think that it helps on the sidelines?
I think it can if it's positive.
Okay.
And if you take a step back and say, hey, today I want to be a positive and point out the positives. That's what I want to do instead of my anxiety. Oh, well, you missed that shot. No one wants to ever hear "oh"
Yeah.
on the side ever, because that's more about you than it's about the kid, and the kid is like carrying that extra weight on their. Oh, my mom just said "oh," and I could hear it from over here. But if you're being positive, like nice shot or wow, good effort or way to go after that ball, I think that's good. I think that's really
More
positive.
positive. So
Yeah.
parents, for you listeners out there, or any fans of teams, we need to be positively reinforcing whatever's happening in the game. And so let's transition to the coach and the coach's role. So you've told me before that the game teaches the game and
Mm.
that coaches should talk less. And so you touched on that. Why does the game teach the game, and what is a coach's role in that game?
Gosh, it was so humbling when I heard this the first time, because it obviously isn't mine. I think it's John Kessel or Carl McGowan that said the game teaches the game. They're both high level volleyball coaches, and it was just so interesting to have this guy who we had just hired. I was a PE teacher at the school for 8 years, and I was the athletic director, and I was in charge of everything. We bring this new guy in, and he just says to me, "Hey man, it's been a month. I've watched you coach, and you talk too much." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I really like the guy." It was like a month, and I was hurt by that. But then I realized that with all the evidence he kept on presenting in these podcasts and these mentors that he had, he was right. The less I said, the better kids got. And the best thing I could do as a coach, and we do this in our pickleball classes now. I tell them all the time, like, I can tell you what to do, but it's better for me to put you in a situation where you are being appropriately challenged by other people and the ball, and it's just more growth. It's also more fun.
Mhm,
So,
mhm. I when I go to like race car matches or like where they're like driving the race car, for me it's really only fun if you actually get to drive the race car, if you get to drive the go-kart.
yeah,
Like
of
I want to
course,
be in the driver's seat.
of course.
It's not that fun when I'm watching.
Yeah, of course. And it's our job as coaches to put um, the proper emphasis on either whether it's drills. I'm not a big fan of like drills versus these game like situations. So if I can put and simulate gameplay in my practice as much as possible, whether it's broken down into little parts, where it's like 3-on-3 instead of 5-on-5, or there's time constraints, putting these extra variables in is so much better. That's our job, is to just how do we make it a better environment for them to learn in. And it's a hard one. That's a whole other podcast.
So when you're coaching, walk me through, like, so say we've got some maybe potential coaches out there or maybe
Mhm.
teachers out there.
Yeah.
Is it that they need more reps? Is it that they need more simulation of things? Like, walk me through your ideal class. If you were going to
Yeah, of
change this
course.
entire country and the way that we teach a sport, the way that we teach a class, the way
Yeah.
that we educate others, what would a simulated class look like for you?
Yeah, and I want to give credit to people that have come before me that have really uncovered this, not discovered it, obviously. They discovered, I just kind of uncovered it through my own experience, and then going back and seeing, oh my gosh, these guys are geniuses. But it's so simple. We were taught as coaches to run these drills. These drills are called, they're blocked drills, meaning you're not predicting anything.
Okay.
Someone will toss you a ball in the air and you say you hit it. There's no prediction there. Instead, I want someone to pitch me the ball as hard as they can and try and strike me out. That way I have to predict. The number one thing in any sport is to be able to predict. The best in the world can do it really well. So my thing is, I would start off with, how can I physically warm up my team with um, the actual game. So are we playing? Sorry, yeah,
Like
gotcha.
like forcing, like how do you force them to predict it? How do you do that?
Exactly. Exactly. And I think you start off by getting them moving, and there's some shooting competitions that you would do with them to start. But then I get right into one on one, then I do two on two, three on three, and then I'll give them a parameter in those, times. I'll say, all right, set a screen to start off the play. Or I'll say, okay, an offensive rebound is worth this amount. Then we'll get into 5-on-5 and run. And everyone wants to run sprints after practice. All these coaches want to run these sprints. The game is enough. If you
Wow.
force them and speed them up in the game, that's like running a straight line sprint for basketball is helpful every once in a while, but going side to side and really cutting and really pushing yourself to play the game mentally and physically, like you've got to see where the ball's coming. Then you've got to adjust your body. There's so much stuff that's happening that we don't even know, and you can't break that stuff down. It's got to be a whole part of the game. It's also more fun.
So a simulated class is where there's not a lot of talking from the
Mhm.
coach. You're building out these scenarios ahead of time to
Yeah,
drive unpredictable situations. And you want to drive as many unpredictable situations in a practice as well, because what I'm hearing, and you can confirm me, is that you are having to listen and be able to predict while you're moving at the same time. Is that correct?
absolutely. Yeah, you're good at this, by the way. You're walking me through what I said because I basically just was off on a tangent. But yes, absolutely, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I always bring you right back. It's like
Yeah,
part of my job as the host.
appreciate
So we've talked about maybe what an ideal class looks like. So an ideal class is simulating these like real life situations where they have to be able to predict what's going to happen, right? And they're not practicing by themselves. They're not doing it where it's like a less stress situation. It's
Yeah,
situationally appropriate stress. And so when we are parents and we're supporting our kids in sports, or we're supporting our family or friends and family of in sports, how do we support them? Because we go to these practices, and I've heard it said that, like, we need to be watching their practice, right? So if I'm sitting at a lacrosse practice, I need to be off my phone. I need to be watching, because sometimes he's going to turn around and look for me and look for my
yeah.
my like my maybe guidance, or my like, oh, do you see that? And so
Approval. Yeah, he
you
wants your approval.
kind of like question me on this, because I've seen my sons shoot, they landed in the goal, and then they turn around and look at me, and I'm like, oh, that's so important. What's your thoughts about that as a
Man,
coach? And how, number one, first question is, how can we support our kids and help them feel supported when they're at practice? And then tell me about your thoughts on them looking back at us.
I think getting them there and then providing them with the other opportunities to prepare for practice is probably the best thing. If you're at practice and you have to be present and you want to be seen, um, I go back and forth on this because it was such a hard thing for me where I would watch my son's practice or my daughter's practice, and I would try not to react on the sideline because I don't want him looking to me or her looking to me for validation as part of. It does hurt.
Because I think
That's
it's so cool, because I feel so special. But then again, I said yeah.
exactly. And I'm not 100% on this. Like there could be research out there that says differently. It just seems to me that if your kid or a kid is looking to the sideline for their parents' support and affirmation, that's not always going to be there. And
Yeah.
so are they going to feel absent after it's not there? And I want them seeking out the reward of the actual process and the practice and with their teammates and with their coach. Like they're building a family there, and it should be something that they're a part of. And I know we want to be part of it. Like I want to be part of it so bad. Like
Totally. Me
but
too. Because I want to yell and holler, and
yeah,
like when they look back at me, I'm like, yeah, or like, I know, like that was a really bad play, like that stunk. Like,
yeah.
yes, you're going to go, like, get up and keep moving. But you think that them building that intrinsic motivation is a
Huge.
tool, right? And I think it probably serves you well throughout your career.
And anything.
Yeah.
And if I'm more concerned with how my mom feels about my basketball game than I am about how I feel about it, it's not a very long lasting relationship I'm going to have with basketball or with any sport. So that's, interesting. I want to stay out of their way so that I'm not interrupting their growth of love for the game and for competing.
What's one thing you can leave parents with today as they, sign their kids up for sports or try to get them involved? And, we want them to find some sport to be passionate about, build some team camaraderie in a sport. What would you tell parents? Like, what's your one piece of advice? I know
Be patient. Yeah, I think but be patient with your kids as they try and navigate this, but also be patient with yourself. Like, you're going to make mistakes in what you try to help your kid with, whether it's not paying enough attention intentionally, or if it's paying too much attention. Meet somewhere in the middle and just be patient with yourself. It's a long process, and sports is a great gift you can give to kids. And it's a lot of fun to be around the other parents that are all trying to build the village with you. So it's cool.
Amen, brother. All right. So shameless plug. Tell me what's going on this summer in Northern Virginia with summer camps. Like, speaking of giving the gift of camps and kids and sports and athletics, what do you guys have going on this summer with Baroody Camps?
We got a lot going on. We got some of the best counselors you're going to find in the area, and you're helping us, train them and get them all set up and prepared for the summer. But we've got anything from fishing camps to mountain biking camps to, day camps, Harry Potter camp. We've got basketball camps, soccer camps, everything around Northern Virginia. We're, teaming up with Arlington County, Falls Church City, Fairfax County, Alexandria City. We've got one of our own Grace Episcopal Church in Alexandria is hosting one of our spaces. So we are just trying to find as many opportunities to connect kids with, college kids, other school, teachers during the summer. And it's just, we've been doing it for years and we love it every time. So we're excited.
Awesome. All right, listeners, we'll put the link in the comments here for you all to review, especially if you're in Northern Virginia, or share this with a friend who's in Northern Virginia to get you signed up for summer camps. Pete, it's been wonderful to have you on the podcast today as we talk about what it means to be with other people, have, that transition in careers from being a coach or a teacher to a coach and what that looks like. So listeners, life is better with you in it. And so it's been a pleasure to be with you today. Have a great one.